Welcome to the Healthy Investor Podcast with Bob Mastroianni, where you and I will learn from successful real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and other highly driven individuals about their journey and the healthy habits and routines that play an integral part of their growth. All right, today on the Healthy Investor Podcast, I have with me Nico Salgado. Nico's a friend of mine, and he's also a multifamily investor, podcast host, meetup host. So Nico has been a Spanish teacher for 18 years. Aside from teaching Spanish for 18 years, he also invests in real estate. He's an entrepreneur, coach, mentor, and a leader. Nico began his investing in real estate journey in 2012 with some single family development projects. And then in 2019, he transitioned over to the multifamily space. He is currently a GP in 194 units. He also hosts a weekly meetup group titled Multifamily Investor Network New York. Nico also hosts a Small Axe podcast where he interviews industry leaders in multifamily, where he believes it only takes a small axe to build a lasting empire. All right. Thanks so much, Nico. Appreciate you taking the time to join me today. It's so great to see you again. How are things going? All right.
Hey, Bob. Yeah, likewise. I'm glad to be here, man. Things are wonderful, man. And I truly appreciate you having me on today. Thank you.
Yeah, great. So wanted to get into a couple of things about your journey. It's been a lot of fun following your journey along the way into multifamily as I begin my process of transitioning into multifamily. You've been a bit of a mentor to me, and you've helped me along the way. And you've also been a great network. One of the things that I really appreciate about you is that you've built your own network, and you've been very open about being able to connect people and bring people together. So I think I want to talk a little bit first tell me about your meetup, your bi-weekly meetup, the Multifamily Investor Network New York, sort of how that came to be and what it's grown to today.
Yeah, man, I would love to. So first of all, it was originally a bi-weekly meetup, and now we're doing it monthly. So if I still wrote in my bio that it's bi-weekly, I need to change that.
All right.
But
okay.
I guess I have a little funny story. So it's not necessarily funny. It's tragic, but funny now. So when I first began my multifamily journey at the end of 2019, everybody was talking about, and you read it in all the books, that you need to have a thought leadership platform. Not only to build a presence and to build authority in the space, but also to learn yourself. So it was a way to kind of enhance and speed up my learning process. So in March of 2020, I decided to do an in-person meetup, and I got a lot of support from the community here in the Jake and Gino community, and everybody's like, "Yeah, do it." So I set up this. One of my friends owns a restaurant here. A bakery rather, and he gave me the keys to the bakery, gave me the bakery for the night, gave me baked goods for the night. And I went in and I had my first meetup. And it was terrifying and scary. And I got like 8 people there and a couple of random people. I only had a few, there was a few people that I knew and a couple of random people, which was nice just from outreach on, online. And the first person to walk in that door was somebody to serve me divorce papers. And this was like when my separation was going, we were just separating. It was probably one of the most devastating nights of my life. And I said to myself after that night, I said, there's no possible way that this multifamily thing can get worse, right? So I'm either going to continue on this path in my multifamily journey or quit right now. And I said, there is no way I'm going to quit. Even after that devastating night, I said, I'm not going to quit. And about a week later, the world shut down for COVID. So I had a decision to make. Did I want to keep doing this terrifying, scary, horrible meetup, or did I want to quit? And I decided to take it online. A couple other people I noticed were doing that. And I said, let me do it too. I took it online, and about a month after being online, I was still doing it every 2 weeks. Yosef, my now partner, had joined.
Lee, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He joined both meetings, and I said, and then he called me to ask how I do my meetup because he liked the way I did it. And I said, you know what, Yosef, I was still trembling at that point. I said, why don't you just help me with mine? So selfishly, I asked for some help and he gladly accepted. And he has been just a rock star to work with on the meetup.
Well, that's great. That's great. Wow. A lot of information all packed into one. It's so funny. I sort of felt the direction that story was heading when you said March 2020. The first thing that popped into my head was, okay, we can see that the pandemic probably had an effect to change what your meetup's going to be like. And then you have the first person to walk in serves divorce papers. Wow. I
Oh,
didn't see that part of the story.
I was crying at the end. I was trembling. I didn't know what to do. It was a wild experience, but I did know that it could only get better from there. And from there, I felt like nothing could stop me. I said, you know what, if the world is trying to say no to me and I'm not going to say no to it, I can survive just about anything. And I felt empowered since then.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And just knowing you personally, I know that you have a continue forward attitude, and I think that has served you well, and I think it'll continue to serve you well. So tell me a little bit about what the meetup looks like today. So here we are, a little more than 2 years later. Obviously, to continue any sort of meetup, at least for a certain period of time, you had to switch to some sort of virtual platform. Do you feel that change in platform and that change in what your meetup was supposed to look like, do you feel like that benefited you? Do you feel like that served it to grow bigger, or what do you feel the effects of that were?
Great question. So Joseph and I have never missed a meetup, right? So we did bi-weekly bi-weekly or bi-monthly, whatever you call it. So twice a month meetups for exactly 1 year. And then from then we transitioned to once a month. It was becoming overwhelming for us, all the work with finding guests and getting people to attend. So once and we still have never missed a meetup. Now, since that time, over 2 years ago, we've had some amazing guests on. We had Rod Khleif, we had Bill Ham, we had Gino himself. We had, Marco Barbaro, a lot of great people and guests on. We've had over 100 attendees at various times. But now what it looks like today is typically we'll have, if we don't promote it much, we're going to have about 20 attendees from around the country. Even actually around the world. We have people from New Zealand joining us, Australia joining us. and I really, really like the way that we have it now. I like that we're not doing it in person, although it is less intimate, right? When you have an in-person meetup, you get to actually shake hands, and I feel that could potentially be more powerful. But for the platform that we set up, we're just doing like casting a wide net, a huge outreach of, to try to show investors who we are, to try to get people to know us a little bit better. And then from there, we take it to Joseph and I will call people directly that have joined our meetups and build relationships that way. So there are pluses and minuses, right? The pluses are you can cast a wide net, you can get people from across the country and even the world joining and learning about you and who you are, and providing them with some assistance. And then the minuses are really that you don't get to shake hands with the person, which I feel is also very important in the business world.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So that's interesting. I guess just to transition a little bit into your investments and where you currently are today. Obviously, when you created the meetup, I'm sure one of your original intentions was to be around people in the business, right? To shake hands with people in the multifamily industry, to share stories and learn from each other, similar to what we do on a podcast, right? So that has brought you to the point where you're now in just about 200 units. So as a GP, can you talk a little bit about, for someone who's new, someone who's just trying to learn about multifamily investing, what is a GP position? What does the GP requirements, and what does that look like on a day-to-day basis to be a GP, which is a general partner in a multifamily opportunity?
Yeah, so in a multifamily syndication, you're going to have general partners and limited partners. The general partners are the team or the group of people or the person, typically a team of people that actively manage the property. They are in charge of the day-to-day decisions. They're in charge of the large decisions. They're in charge of when to refi, how to refi, when to make distributions, how to make distributions, et cetera. So they are actively involved in the management side of the business, right? They're not necessarily managing the day-to-day property as a property manager is, but we oversee the property management team. The limited partners on the other side are the partners who invest passively. They typically have to they have to first vet the deal, vet the team, and vet the market. And then once they invest their capital, they're typically hands off. There's not much more to do other than check in on your investments to see how it's going. And the general partnership team, me, myself, in this case, is the one who provides the investor updates. We do either every 2 weeks or once a month updates, and I write up those updates for the investors based on how the property is performing. We have weekly calls with our property management team still to this day, although a lot of people tend to move to once a month calls or quarterly calls with their property management team once the building or once the property is stabilized.
Okay.
But we have chosen to keep, even though we are stabilized, we're doing weekly calls, because at this point now occupancy is excellent. We're just trying to now reduce expenses a little bit, so we feel the need to kind of stay on top of the property management team, along with overseeing property management. There's just the quote unquote asset management, whereas there are things that come in. For example, we might receive a fine from the city for not having certain things up to code. We need to take care of that and handle that. We might, for example, have leaky issue, so leaks in certain apartments. We need to make sure that we get a maintenance crew in there, or at least that the property management team is all over that and handling it well. They send any bids to us of what costs they think that they might need to incur based on a turn or based on any issues that are going on at the property, and then we have to approve them and perhaps change their plan or whatever. So it's constant communication, is essentially with the property management team, to ensure that they are on par with our business plan and our short-term and long-term business plan.
Wow. There's so much packed into that answer. I'm not sure I was prepared for all of that information. So that was great. And based on what I've learned about GP versus LP positions, and that was a really, really excellent description. I appreciate how in-depth you went. And it is very interesting to hear about the regular meetings, the regular base touches. I've often heard it referred to from a asset management position as really managing the management company, right? You are managing the manager, and you're really making sure that they are handling your property, your investment, and your partner's investment in the way that you want it to be seen, in the way that you want it to be shown. So that's really great. That's a really great description. I appreciate that, Nico. Thank you. So
you're welcome.
I know that you and I have had conversations in the past, and I know that you often like to look at, we talk about different areas of Florida with the sunshine, the sun is shining brightly, and a lot of population movement is happening there. Rents are on the rise. Where are your current investment properties?
Yeah, so there are two properties in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
194 units total. It was one acquisition. So I've only done that one acquisition, and we're still working on that deal. We're actually set to sell it pretty soon. However, with the way the debt market is today, the current buyers, the prospective buyers have had difficulty securing a loan. So twice now we gave them an extension. Hopefully we will close this coming month. And if we don't, that's fine. We're also set to hold on to this for the next few years, regardless. But yeah, so right now, to answer your question, we are in Columbus, Ohio.
Great. You touched on something there that I'd like to sort of point out. And a lot of my experience, as you know, comes from the residential side. I have multifamilies that are 1 to 4 units that are considered residential, and also some single family opportunities that I've worked on in the past. And one of the things that I'm noticing when I move into multifamily is, first of all, multifamily opportunities are really treated as a business. And when you mentioned that the buyer of your property that you're looking to sell is having a little bit of a tough time with financing, you're working with them. And I noticed this sense in the multifamily industry of working together to make the deal happen a lot more than you see in the residential side of the industry. It seems like it's a little less uncommon, I should say, to hear that a buyer and seller have come into a few snags. Maybe there is a repair request that needs to happen, or maybe there's some financial issues, or maybe there's an extension that needs to happen. And it really feels like, for the best interest of both, there's this sense of let's work together and make this more of a business business decision that works well for both of us. Do you find that to be true in the multifamily side of the industry?
Yes and no. There's even people on my team who still get emotionally involved, saying, we should not give them this extension. But yeah, but as you said, we both parties benefit greatly from making the sale go through. So the majority of us voted yes, we're going to give them this second extension because it makes sense for everybody. And just for thinking of this from a business perspective, taking the emotion out, getting this deal done, selling it makes a lot of sense for us and our investors. It's the best option, really. So however we could make that happen, that's what we were pushing for. And, but there was questions amongst our team of whether or not these buyers are serious. So and we said directly to them, are you guys serious about this? And they said, yes, they're serious. So they put $250,000 down in earnest money, which they released to us, which they cannot get back. So that's just a bold statement saying, yes, we are serious about making this acquisition. We just need a little bit more time. They actually set up this coming week. They have an appraisal set up. So they are absolutely serious about it. They told us who they're using for their lender now. And I feel a little bit more confident now.
Great. Wow. $250,000 in hard cash definitely says I'm serious, right?
That speaks serious to me, man.
That's great. So I want to transition. The intention of the Healthy Investor podcast is to talk with investors like yourself and entrepreneurs, and also talk about some of your healthy habits and some of their healthy routines. You and I first met actually on a 5-mile run with a few other investors, and I hope to have them all on here at some point. So I know that you're into running. I know from following you on Instagram, Facebook, and even from our conversations that you really do prioritize your health and fitness routines. So if you could just tell me a little bit about what that looks like. And then I'd also like to talk about how you feel that affects your business, your success, and your growth.
Oh, I love this question. Nobody asks this question ever. So thank you for asking. Well, as we're talking, I'm drinking this is a gigantic jug of water with, if it doesn't look, it looks a little cloudy because I got some Bob's, what is it? Apple cider vinegar in here.
Oh, okay.
Just a little pick me up in the afternoon.
Nice.
So I essentially work out or do some sort of exercise every single day. And I don't feel myself, and I don't feel 100% on point if I don't exercise. I mean, obviously I need some rest days, but I will do some sort of stretching or some sort of physical movement to get my blood flowing. I don't feel myself if I don't exercise or do something. So every single morning I've trained myself to wake up, anytime, anywhere between 5 and 6, and I'm working out when I wake up. The first thing I do is I will journal, and then I'm going to jump right into my workout, and I get it done before the day begins. And I feel that that working out gives me such a mental relief and just a mental clarity for that lasts the entire day. I feel good. I feel energized. I feel like I accomplished something difficult. And it kind of settles me. It makes me feel just good. It brings my vibration up and also lowers my heart rate for the rest of the day. And then I'm ready to focus for the rest of the day.
That's great. I love the idea of journaling in the morning. At one point in my life, I was a very big proponent of the miracle morning. At this point, I sort of do my own version of that, but I always like to include journaling. And journaling is a very interesting routine in that I really feel like I'm writing to myself a commitment of some of the things that I'm going to do that day and some of the things that I'm grateful for. And then, the exercise, it's great to hear that, you utilize that as a way to focus throughout your day, because I feel like, that probably will be a common theme for some of the people that I do interview. Do you have a specific genre of exercise, if you will? Is there anything specific that you do in your workout that you find unique from, I don't know, I feel like you do some heavy bag, so some boxing. Is there a martial art involved, or is it more cardio? What is your, where do you pick your exercise routine from?
Yeah, great question. So I used to lift weights a lot in high school and college. I always played sports, right? But lifting weights was like the cool thing as a guy to try to build muscle, bulk up and build muscles. And there was one summer that went by when I was working out every day and eating a can of tuna at the end of all my meals every night just to try to bulk up a little bit. Nothing was working. I've never surpassed 160 pounds. I've always been about between 150, 155, 160 was my max, and that was in college. And I've never surpassed that. And during that time, I ended up injuring myself. So it was in college, and I ended up going to Australia for a semester, surfing every single day like a maniac, and still trying to lift weights, right? And then I come home from surfing, and I had already started a boxing program the year prior. So I came home from that semester abroad after completely, destroying my body surfing. I ended up actually getting tendonitis in my shoulder from surfing so much. I had to take a few months off, and then I come back and I go right into boxing.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was boxing at a police athletic league up in Albany, New York, and I was doing great at it. I really loved it. But then, so I had this injury that was healing. I got a shot for that, for my shoulder, which has been fine since. But during that time, just from having a weakened body or whatever it was, I was doing too many different workouts. I herniated a couple of discs in my neck. And from then I kind of took a step back from the active sparring. Although I did participate, so I participated in boxing for a few years, but once I hurt my neck, I kind of withdrew from active sparring, and I just do it as a just a workout to get my blood going, to feel good. And I've noticed that I still do it today. I box, I box like probably 4 times a week, just by myself, just on the heavy bag. I'll do a lot of movement, a lot of different things. I do a lot of jump rope with the weighted jump rope. And I noticed that this helps me with every other sport that I play. It keeps me light on my feet. It keeps me agile. It keeps me very, very balanced and focused as well. It's like your reaction time becomes really quick when you're doing something like boxing, where you have, because I also have this a double end bag, which is swinging back at me, and I need to move, and I need to, constantly be on guard. So boxing has been probably most recently one of my favorite sports to do, alongside of surfing, which I still do all year also.
Great, great. Wow, that's
long,
exciting.
long answer. Sorry, man.
No, no, I like long answers. Those are good. Those are good. So I have zero boxing experience, so maybe I'll try it out one day. Would love to try to become a little lighter on my feet and maybe hit the bag a little bit. So maybe it's something I can add into my repertoire a little bit. So we're starting to come closer to the end. I wanted to ask you a few questions that I plan to ask every guest. So for you, Nico, what is your definition of success? How do you define success?
Oh, what a question, man. So for me, success is being able to do what I want to do, like acting on my highest excitement, right? Every single day, waking up, acting on my highest excitement without any negative impact to my career, my relationships, and my health and well-being, right? So if I can wake up, do what I want to do, and have a wonderful life with my daughter and my friends and family, and still be having my passive income surpassing my active, my active income, then I'm a happy, successful guy.
Wow, that's a great answer. Great answer. Very cool. So for someone who's new to investing, someone's trying to learn about maybe focusing on their goals, path to success, do you have a book recommendation for someone who's just starting out and trying to follow along for some investment opportunities, or just, again, just sort of focus and health or success growth?
Yes. I really, so when I started, I read Joe Fairless's book, the best ever apartment syndication book or something like that. And I really
Okay.
took a lot from that. I really understood from then on what syndication was. That really helped me, see that this is something that I could do. So I highly recommend that book. And then I always recommend the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey for people to read. It's not necessarily an investing book at all, but it is definitely exactly what it says: 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it just makes you reflect on your life and how you interact with people, how you tackle situations, and your relationships with those close to you. So I think it's a really important book for people to read.
That's great. That's great. So I have not read Joe Fairless' book yet, so I will add that to my list of books to check out. So I appreciate that feedback. And I do have experience. I've read the seven Habits of Highly Successful People. And very interesting thing in the title. And, one of the things that I'm trying to focus more on in my life is getting feedback and receiving feedback from people who either are where you want to go or are heading where you want to go, right? So what are the habits of highly successful people? It's a great learning experience, I think, sort of for anyone. So before we get to the final question, I want to first of all thank you. I appreciate you taking your time out to be on the Healthy Investor podcast. I also want to thank you for having me on the Small Axe Community podcast. For those who do not know, Nico has a podcast called the Small Axe Community. And one of the things that he does in his podcast is he follows new investors. And although I am experienced in real estate, I'm new to the multifamily genre of real estate, and Nico is going to be following me for this year. We do a quarterly check-in, and it's a great piece of accountability. It has helped me tremendously. So I want to thank you for all that. If you could just take a moment and tell us how any of the listeners can support you or get in contact with you.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to talk with people. You can find a way to contact me, like book a call with me. That's probably the best thing to do. I don't bite. I'm never like onboarding investors. I just talk to people to see where they're at in life and make some sort of connection. And hopefully I can provide some sort of value. Everybody that I talk to, I intend on giving them what is they're looking for. So for example, somebody called me the other day and they're telling me that they're investing in North Carolina. I hooked them up with a friend of mine who's got, X amount of money looking to invest in North Carolina. So my objective is to provide some sort of value. And to book a call with me, you typically can just go to my website. It's smallacecommunities.com.
All right, great. So final question, if you will, if you could sort of think back to a young Nico, maybe age 10 to 12, preteen, right? Just learning a little bit about life and sort of knowing what you know about life and so far in your journey, the things that have helped you become successful, maybe your habits, routines, and those sort of things. Are there 3 pieces of advice that you would give to young Nico, 10 to 12, 13 years old, or really even any child at that age? And I'll tell you the reason that I like to ask this question is because I feel like that really is such an impressionable age. And I feel like in our education system, we could do a little bit more of teaching those age children exactly what they can do to try and head towards success. So what kind of advice would you give to young Nico or to any child at that age?
Oh man, cool question. So I agree with you 100%. So I teach middle school kids and they're super impressionable. I love the fact that they're open and willing to listen to what I say, right? So I'm going to jump back to myself, 10 to 12. I used to save money. I used to roll it up in a ball and cherish it. I would tell myself, number 1, invest that. I would tell, because I would roll it up and count it over and over and over. I wouldn't spend it, I would save it. I would tell myself, invest that and watch it grow. Number 2, let's see. I would say, understand that you can put the work in now. So the main topic of this next answer is going to be do it now, right? Get as much work done as you can now to either educate yourself and or accumulate enough money to begin your investing career, whether that be in real estate or some other form of investing. I think that investing is such an important way for us to become financially free in the future. Number 3, I would say, slow down, just relax. Even though I want you to do it now, understand that it does take time.
Wow. Excellent answers, Nico. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Make sure you reach out to Nico Salgado at the smallacecommunities.com. Thanks, everyone, and make it a great day. Thanks so much for joining me on the Healthy Investor Podcast. Check out the show notes for more information about connecting with our guest. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please head on over to iTunes and leave a positive rating and review. It would mean the world to me. I'm grateful for your support, and I wish you an abundance of success on your journey to healthy investments and a healthy life.